Okay, so everything is set, and the port side is all set. We got the LEDs, we got them all in a row. We're going to illuminate the bulkheads. We've got the wires coming out of the back where we can light the officers' quarters. We're going to go through, light both sides, and then we're going to wire, and we're going to put the rest of the LEDs in place. And I've been giving it some thought on where we're going to have the power supply coming out of the ship, and I think we're going to have it down right in the center, right around where the keel is. That way there, when it sits on the base, it won't be noticeable. We don't want it out in the front or on the back. So we're going to have the feed coming from the bottom of the ship, and we'll do that after, as we go along and we wire everything in place. So you can see the leads coming out where we had to drill into the bulkheads. We're going to have to do the same thing on this side. I think what I want to do first, though, is we're going to get all of the LEDs glued into place. So how many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We've got 12 of them. So we're going to put the same amount on the other side, or on the starboard side. And we're going to start the long process again of taking them out of the plastic, and I know, by the way, I know there's concern about the LEDs, the 5mm clear. They're very bright, and we are going to be plugging this in, but not to worry, I do have a plan. We're going to actually make it look like the lighting of the ship from the time period. So we're not going to make her all lit up like she would be the Queen Mary II. So we want to make her appear the way she did back when Admiral Nelson would have been on her while lighting her. So let's get started. We got to prepare all the LEDs. So we got to take them all out of the plastic wrap and get them in position, and eventually we're going to glue them into place, and we got to wire it the same way we did for the port side. So let's get these little plastic strip off. What I like about these is they give a lot of extra wire. And it comes in handy to use. All right, I'm gonna put the scissors aside for now. And I want to get all of the bulbs in the same, about the same position as they are on the other side. All right, so right about there. So we're going to take the hot glue gun, and we're going to put the bulbs in. I'm not going to cut them yet. I know we did that to the other side, but they ended up, we had to cut more off. So this way here, it'll be a little more, less wasteful. That's looking pretty good. All right, let's do 3 more. And make sure it's still a little soft. I want to make sure that everything is nice and set before we move on. Starting to get filled up. And we got 3 more. Here we are. So we're going to give this a second to set. You can see we've got the all 12 positioned the same way we did on the port side. So we can wait for the glue to set, and in the meantime we're going to start the process of actually wiring all the lights together. So I think we're all set with the glue gun, so let's put this aside now, because eventually we're going to actually replace the glue gun with the soldering iron. Alright, so we got this one through. Okay, so we brought the first 2 into the 3rd compartment. And what I'm going to do is we're going to wire these together, feed it through, and then we're going to do the next batch of 3. So let's cut the wires. And I know this is a mess, but trust me, it'll look really nice once everything is done. Alright, so we have all the leads freed. So let's go ahead now. We're actually going to wire them all together. Let's do the positives first. And eventually these will all be soldered together. And what we're going to have to do is we're actually going to make a jumper for this to go into the next compartment. So the jumper has to go through this bulkhead. Do it on the bottom. Make sure that they don't get separated. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them like that so they'll be all set to be soldered. So now we got to do the same thing with the negative leads. There. So we're going to leave these in place like this so we can solder them, and then we're going to tuck them back in to the bulkheads. So now let's run the negative lead through the bulkhead. Alright. Like I said, we're going to leave the wires like this so they'll be easier to solder. Okay, so we got these through now, and these are coming out and they're going into the 3rd bulkhead. Alright, so we got everything coming through this bulkhead now. So we can go ahead and we're going to wire all this together. So we got the light right about here. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to jump into the next one. So again, bear with me. I know this looks like a mess right now, but so we're going to jump through, and I think we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go over 3. Now let's just use this one. So we got the jumper going through. We have the positives ready to solder. So we're going to do the same thing with all the negatives now. Yeah. So we got these that are going to be all set to solder now, and then we'll tuck them in the bulkhead over here. So now we got to do these 2 and put them into the 3rd bulkhead, and I'm going to cut the wire. Alright, so we got them all coming into the 3rd bulkhead. Here we go, one more for this one, for the jumper. So So we need to run this one through. So let's cut this LED lead. All right, now we got to put the jumpers on. All right, so we got all the wires coming out. And we have to put a jumper that we're going to do the same thing as we did for the other side. But for now, let's get these trimmed down. We don't need all this. Alright, so we drilled down through this way. So we're going to do the same thing over here. So it takes some maneuvering to get that through. Okay, so we got all the wires together. Everything is ready to solder. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 positive bunches and 4 negative bunches. And we have the leads coming into the back. Now, before we solder, oh, looks like all right, we got one more. Oh, good thing I noticed that. And that was the lead. All right, good thing I noticed that. All right, so what we got to do now is we're going to test it before we solder it to make sure that everything works. We didn't want to go through all this for nothing. So if we did everything right, we should get the lights that are going to light up on the starboard side. So, as you guys can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all 12 lights are lit up. So what I want to do now, oh, that's the other side. Okay, what I want to do now is we're going to go ahead and I'm going to solder everything. So let's disconnect the power supply. Some flux on every single connection. When the solder melts, the flux will help it keep sticking to the metal and it'll stay in place, it'll run down, and it'll fuse the wires together. There. Put the solder gun aside. Alright. And give that a second to set and put the flux away. As well as the solder. Okay. Looks like we got some of the solder on the wood that comes right off. There. So hopefully you guys can see all the soldered connections. So what I want to do now is I want to gently put them into the bulkheads. Alright, so everything is tucked down, and when we do the planking, everything will be pushed into position. So I want to retest everything to make sure it's working. And as you can see, everything is still working. So since we have the leads for port and starboard, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to retest everything. So let's make sure everything so far to this point is working. And if everything is going to plan, absolutely all 24 lights should come on. So let's show you that. So let's shut the light off. So you can see that's looking pretty good. I'm going to take this section off. We'll do that a little bit later because I want to be able to see the cargo. Yeah, that's good. When we put the cargo hatches on, you're going to be able to see the light coming from the bottom. And again, guys, don't worry about the brightness because I know this is really bright, but we're actually going to tone it down. So it looks like there's one bulb on this side that's not working. All right, let's try that again. All right, now all 24 are working. So let's shut the lights, get it nice and dark for you guys. So, love it. Look at that. And again, I know it's bright, but trust me, I've got something. We're gonna put everything. Before we put the decks on, we're going to tone down the lights and we're going to make it look a little more like the period. So this, my friends, was the starboard side lights. So in the next video, when you put the lights back on, in the next video, what we're going to do is we're going to do the captain's quarters, the crew quarters, and the whole back of the ship, as well as bringing the power supply that we're going to get ready to put into the base. And like I said, that's going to be somewhere in the middle of the ship, coming out near the keel. That way there won't be noticeable. So my friends, thank you so much for the kind words. And until my next video in this series, I'll talk to you guys soon.